My name's Shan Young. I am an award-winning entrepreneur and international speaker. And most of all, I am absolutely adored by my Caribbean husband and my 3 children. And the reason I'm doing this series is because I do not want to see my daughter in the streets protesting. She's 9 months old now, and I don't want her to ask me as well, like, what did you do at this point in time? So this is why I pulled this event together, and we're going to look at how colonialism has given entitlement. So King Edward the First was the first practice for colonialism. He was a scholar and he was skilled in law and in battle. He's first issued a Statue of Jewery in 1275, stripping Jews of all their money, all their property by excessive taxation, and throwing them out of England. He had his heart set on Scotland, but instead he used the money gained by this law to annex Wales onto England. And in England, the law still stands, the law of Jewry. So in 1287, Alexander III, King of Scots, died, and Edward uses a series of political manoeuvring to become the overlord of Scotland. And in 1295, Scotland and France formed the Auld Alliance, I have to say it Scottish, so Edward retaliated by slaughtering 8,000 people in Berwick. And then the Battle of Dunbar took place. He immediately started the same tactics he had on Wales when he took over Scotland. And this would be how Great Britain would use their tactics when they started colonizing outside of Scotland. So he looted Scotland of its treasures, symbolics of its nationhood, symbols of its nationhood, most notably the crown jewels and the Stone of Destiny. And he was brutal to the Scottish colony, that he was so brutal, he was called the Hammer of the Scots. Okay? And Robert the Bruce freed the Scottish from English rule at the Battle of Bannockburn, 1314. But during the reign of King James I of England, in 1607, this is when the first permanent colony abroad in Jamestown in Americas was made. And it was established by John Smith and the Virgin Company. Britain had no black slaves at that point in time, so they took what they had, which was Irish, Welsh, and Scottish indentured servants, providing them with the manpower they needed for the colonies. Portugal and Spain had access to the African slaves. So when Britain, in 1627, established the Barbados colony, they enslaved the native Carib people instead. When they did this, they gave the white indentured servants the titles, and this is the first entitlement, not the first entitlement, but this is how they used titles to make people feel like they were above. And so these indentured slaves who had been brutally treated themselves then got the chance and the job to brutally treat the Carib people and be their white superiors. So colonialism is an exceptional evil. I mean, we can see now that the extent of the violence that produced the processes of colonialism. Understanding these processes not merely involve the coding and recoding of conquered territories and peoples, but the virtual reinvention of the colonial territory, as a space that could be used in various ways. The English first worked on their colonial model, like I said, in Wales and Scotland. And with each conquest, they approached it like they were helping these wretched people, these backward people that were so in need of civilizing and of religious doctrine. The British system has been built on a hierarchy, giving local supporters titles and allowing them to subjugate and enslave others. This has created the opportunity for people who have gained titles and their hereditary peers in perpetuity to carry these titles and the money that's come with it forward. This is where entitlement comes from. there's 92 members of the House of Lords, and they're unelected bodies, an unelected body, and they're hereditary peers, and compared to in the Senate, where there's 100 elected people. So this is what we've got now. While Great Britain was colonizing the world, the message to its citizens were getting was one of being superior. An article in the Journal of Black Studies states the aftermath of Western colonization is that white males have regarded previously colonized populations as less than equal in negotiating quality of life issues. White males are adamant about the unfair advantage of affirmative action for Black people. In objections to affirm action, the perspective of the white male conservatives are distorted by power and a sense of entitlement, and it manifests in an entitlement disorder. An entitlement disorder is when they need to dominate over everything in any venture that is being considered. So rethinking the significance of power as per the white male psyche is the beginning effort to rescue the Black quality of life from the formidable traditions of Western domination. Correlating as well, quality of life factors such as employment may be directly linked to the underwritten hierarchy, whereby white males feel entitled to be desired because of their post-colonial birthright to any jobs. 4% of white people were unemployed in 2018, compared to Black people having the highest unemployment rate of any ethnic group of 9%. That flip back a bit to the future. Okay. So the constructs of an imperial power. The UK is a country that once was an imperial power, but with no empire. The monarch holds on to its power with pomp and pageantry, with these men on horses and ancient regalia, but no empire and no real power anymore. On Facebook, there was a woman who was very, very nice to Black Lives Matter for a bit until the statue got put in the river. And then suddenly she became someone who was saying basically, you know, after our hospitality, these heathens can get off my land, basically. So this is the kind of thing we're dealing with. There's a lot of people smiling, but have wrong mindset. So let's look at that. Is it get off my land, or is it their land, or is everybody's land who's here? So from the British colony, 2.5 million Sikhs and Indians fought Nazism for Britain, and now they're called Pakis and spat on in the street. The Windrush generation were invited here. And I say that again, they were invited here, yeah, as part of Britain's colonies, to rebuild Britain. And they have been systematically disenfranchised, losing pensions that they've paid into for a lifetime, and being sent back to where they come from. But some of them actually were born here, and some of them came here when they were invited. And it kind of reminds me of the Statue of Jewery in 1275. So you invite these people over, you use their labor, and then you send them back after you've got all the taxes off them. So Britain would not be what it is if it was not for the sacrifice of these people. So I think that British people need to start, you know, being grateful for the blood, sweat and tears that have built this nation. And for those that say get back to your own country, and we're talking like Britain has been the one who has looted people's countries. They've looted it, and they have shown other people how to loot. They've written books on how to slave people. Britain has been an educating force in this. Okay, so let's look into that, the snapshot of finances, okay? In the Economic Times, it was stated that India suffered humiliation, not only humiliation for 2 centuries under colonial rule, and the study quoted that 45 trillion dollars have been lost in monetary value. And the West is being asked by Africa, this was in 2018, to pay 777,000 billion within 5 years for repatriation of Africans while colonizing. And then the National Commission for Repatriation says Jamaica would be due at least 2.3 trillion from the slavery and repatriation, and the Caribbean itself is 7.5 trillion. So England looted the crown jewels from Scotland back in just past 1275. Can't remember the actual date, but they looted them, and they looted the. Let me find that date for you. Yeah, 1295. So they looted them, and they never cared. And then there was yesterday we went over the vagrancy laws in 1547, where people could be enslaved for being out of work. So do you see how this establishment, his best interest is the tactics of divide and conquer? This is what comes through, is divide and conquer. If they can divide us and set us against each other, then they can conquer us, and they can keep looting with a smile on their face. Okay, so again, I just want to say, I think Britain should be grateful for the support that has protected, has built and rebuilt this country, and the cultural enrichment that we have received. I mean, I think dinners would be very unspicy and, you know, flavoursome. You know, we've got to start being grateful. And I think those who were wondering what happened, then there's another little journey through time. And when you see that pictures, where was it? You know, these guys up here, unable to spell Britain, peeing themselves, and this is what is presenting itself as British. And if you look at it through history, there's a lot of disenfranchised white people as well. Remember, they were taken as indentured slaves as well for the first colonies.